One of the most pleasantly surprising aspects of the Walt Disney Company's purchase of 21st Century Fox in 2019 is just how well they've handled the brand's sci-fi action franchises. It wouldn't have been a shock if they had just let some of these series lie fallow, but instead, they've expanded them and finally started to show their true potential. The Alien franchise has fleshed out the universe substantially, with 2024's nostalgia-filled Alien Romulus as well as Alien Earth, one of 2025's best new shows. Just as impressive is what has been done with the Predator brand over the last few years, particularly under the guidance of writer-director Dan Trachtenberg. After many failed attempts to revive the brand in the 2010s, with 2010's Predators and 2018's The Predator, this franchise finally found new life with 2022's Prey, taking the series 300 years into the past in a demonstration of both scope and possibility. This was further proven earlier this year with the animated anthology film Predator: Killer of Killers, which opened up the universe on an even grander scale. With Predator: Badlands, Trachtenberg returns to direct for the third time, continuing his incredible track record of reviving the Predator brand and expanding its universe in new, inventive, and truly exciting ways. Predator: Badlands tells a story from the Predator's perspective.
Predator: Badlands begins on the planet of Yautja Prime, where we find a young predator named Dek trying to prove himself in a fight against his brother, Quay. Dek holds his own in the fight, and Quay presents Dek with his final task in becoming a Yautja warrior, which is to go to a foreign planet and bring back that world's toughest specimen as a trophy. Dek chooses the planet Genna, known as the Death Planet, and vows to return with the head of a monstrous creature known as the Kalisk. Quay mentions that even their father, Njor, the head of the Yautja clan, fears Genna. Before Dek can depart on his mission, Njor finds his two sons and is disappointed that Quay hasn't murdered Dek, whom he sees as the clan's weakness due to his smaller stature. Considering Dek has protected Quay in the past, Quay defends his brother in a brutal fight against Njor. Before Quay is killed at the hands of their father, he uses his own ship to send Dek away to Genna so that he can prove himself as a member of their clan. Once Dek's ship crashes on Genna, he immediately discovers why it's called the Death Planet, as everything is out to kill him. The trees attack him like giant snakes, worms explode like grenades, even grass is as sharp as razor blades, and that's all before he even discovers the mighty Kalisk. Dek is in over his head, but then he meets a damaged Weyland-Yutani synth named Thia, who is missing her legs. The pair form an alliance, with Thia offering to help Dek in the strange land, as well as lead him to the Kalisk so she can be reunited with her bottom half. Amongst all this, another Weyland-Yutani synth, Tessa, is trying to capture the Kalisk as well, after a previous attempt didn't go as planned and left both Thia and Tessa injured. As Dek sets out in search of his trophy alongside Thia, he finds that the Yautja's typical method of hunting alone might not be the best way for him to accomplish his goal.
Dan Trachtenberg continues to make the Predator franchise better than ever.
In a series that has largely been about a predator killing its prey in gruesome, violent ways, one of Trachtenberg's greatest additions to this universe has been to find nuance and depth within that concept. Not only has he brought the Predator to 1700s Comanche tribes, WW2 fighter pilots, and samurai in the 1600s, but he's found a way to make these stories more emotionally relevant. Considering the primary thing we know about predators is that they like to hunt and kill, it's remarkable how easily Trachtenberg and screenwriters Patrick Aison and Brian Duffield are able to make us feel empathy for the young Dek. Even though we know Dek's goal is simply to kill, Badlands is clever in how it adds depth to what has mostly been a one-dimensional character by expanding the origins and lore of this alien race. It's also just fun to watch Predator: Badlands play with the possibilities of a world where pretty much everything can kill you. Genna is a planet rich with cool creature designs and crazy monsters that make the predators feel quaint in comparison. But even more than that, Badlands shows the intricacies of the land and how certain dangers can become a strength. Much like how Badlands wants to present the different layers of the predator, the world itself shows that even the wildest creatures have more than one side. Genna isn't just fascinating because of the trials Dek is subjected to, it also creatively reveals various aspects of its land and how useful these aspects can become when wielded to one's advantage. Much has been made of Predator Badlands' PG-13 rating, as opposed to R, as the rest of these films have been. Yet Trachtenberg certainly doesn't tone down the action here. The rating is mostly because the violence on screen is between either creatures or synthetics. Trachtenberg once again excels in action sequences, and these new creatures allow for some wild fights that are a blast to watch. But he still makes it compelling to watch two predators fight each other and finds really fun ways to homage both Alien and Predator franchises while playing with the possibilities of these universes through action. If anything, Trachtenberg makes Predator Badlands the closest thing to an actually good Alien vs. Predator movie in years, and demonstrates that it's time for these two brands to team up more frequently. While it's only a slight complaint, and an issue that only crops up here and there, one of the most awkward sides of Badlands comes in the way it infuses more heart into a Predator story. Granted, it works well within the narrative that Badlands sets up, as Dek's story of family, grieving, and fitting in within his clan all allow for a film that can occasionally focus on sensitivity and more touching aspects. But in terms of the Predator universe as a whole, it does feel a bit out of place. Finding an emotional center for Dek in this world isn't a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination, but it does feel odd at times in how it's approached within the larger scale of what we know about the Predator.
Elle Fanning and Dimitrius Schuster-Koloamatangi are a great duo in Predator Badlands. On this journey, Predator Badlands is essentially a two-hander between Schuster-Koloamatangi's Dek and Fanning's Thia, and their dynamic is quite charming. As one would expect, Dek is more of the strong, silent type, while Thia is inquisitive and talkative. Their dynamic is delightful throughout the film and only grows stronger the further the story goes along, especially once they make the acquaintance of a strange, monkey-like creature that joins them on their journey. So much of what makes Badlands work as well as it does is down to these two performances. Despite Schuster-Koloamatangi being covered by the face of a predator, his mannerisms and physicality tell us plenty about Dek. He's not quite as confident as the predators we've seen before, but he tries to put on the bravado of one. There's fear in his eyes when things get to be too much or overwhelming, another element we've yet to see in a predator character. Even though Schuster-Koloamatangi is under a substantial amount of makeup and computer animation, he brings a weight and emotional core to Dek that makes this character gripping. Fanning is also having a blast in her dual roles. Thia is a great balance to Dek's attitude and harbors the humanity within this story, while Tessa is a captivating robotic presence with a style that seems straight out of a Hideo Kojima game. These are two totally different performances, but Fanning nails both equally well and runs the gauntlet from delightful comic relief to chilling antagonist. Between Predator Badlands and her work in sentimental value, 2025 is the year Fanning has proven she can pretty much do anything. Predator Badlands might not be the shock to the system that Prey was, but it is continued proof that putting Predator in Trachtenberg's hands was one of the smartest moves this franchise has ever made. The writer and director continues to find brilliant, fascinating ways to explore and expand the Predator movies to an exhilarating level, making this series better than it ever has been. Predator Badlands comes to theaters on November 7.